Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with author, veteran entrepreneur, and business expert Tom Gledhill. He found, built, and sold multiple companies during his career as a business owner. He is a former M&A Advisor and the author of the best-selling books Xitpro System and The Big Transfer. It is well known that 80% of small businesses that go to market don't sell, and the wave of baby boomer business owners that are retiring and need to sell their companies only make the problem worse. His mission is to help these companies and individuals survive and thrive in the community. It's a great story of giving back and so much more. Enjoy. Well, Tom, it's wonderful to meet you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking forward to getting into your life as a veteran entrepreneur and a business expert and the timeline of experience that you've accumulated. But before that, I'm curious, how many ripples in the pond did living through this pandemic create that are still in your life now that you're dealing with because of going through that time period?
It didn't affect me much because at the time I was doing a lot of writing, and I was writing a book at that time, and so it really did not affect me. But what came out of it, I think, was a positive from my perspective. Was what we're doing right now with the virtual meeting, and it allowed me to do business all over the country and all over the world, really. And so that was it. Kind of accelerated the process. The process was going to happen eventually, but the pandemic accelerated that process. So that was a positive. Now, I was fortunate. I never. I was vaccinated and so forth. I went through the vaccinations. I'm a veteran, so I get a lot of my health care from the VA, and they're excellent. We have an excellent program, and so that the pandemic really didn't affect me too much.
So talk to me a little bit about what you do on a daily basis. I know you've founded multiple companies. You're a best-selling author, a veteran. But if I was to put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids at career day, and one of the kids in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I would say right now I help small businesses. I help small businesses. I think digging down a little bit, I help small businesses prepare to sell, because I've been both a business owner and a business broker. And you get two completely different views there. When you own a business, you're on the inside looking out, and when you're a business broker, you're on the outside looking in, and you've got two completely different views. And I learned a lot, certainly being a business owner, but I learned that much more when I was a business broker, because now I'm looking into valuation, how a company valued, what makes companies saleable and what makes them not saleable. And so when I was doing business brokerage, I was a management consultant for a period of time in my career, and I really enjoyed being a management consultant. I learned a lot, and that's when I left a good job, a well-paying good job that I enjoyed, to start my own company. And it was a software company, and I ran that for a number of years. We did very well. And when I sold it, I didn't really know what I was going to do. And a friend said, "Hey, why don't you get in M&A? I think you'd be good at that." So I did, and I learned a lot. When I was in studying for my certification, I learned that only 20% of businesses that went to market sold. Well, I didn't believe that. I thought they got it wrong. I thought it was the other way around. And so when I got into brokerage, and after I talked to hundreds of business owners, I realized it was true. And so that became sort of my major focus, even when I was a broker, because a broker is supposed to sell businesses, right? That's what they do. That's how they make a living. And you don't have time to be a consultant, really. But from my management consulting experience, I kind of took it, and it was my own brokerage, so I could do what I wanted. And so I spent time with these people, sitting down, finding out you know, what the problem was and analyzing the problem. And in most cases, I would leave. I wouldn't take the listing because they were unsaleable, and it takes time to make them saleable. But I told them what to do, and in a couple of cases, they wanted me to work with them, and they wanted to pay me to help them make their company saleable. So I did, and I got the listing in it. We sold them. But that only was for a couple of cases. But but there came a time when I had to sell my brokerage for personal reasons, and so I was at home now, and I had a lot of time in my hands, and I started researching and analyzing why these companies didn't sell, and that led to my first book, The Big Transfer, and then eventually to my second book, Xitpro System, which resulted in a course, and the course was about really preparing companies for sale. And I developed 16 value drivers that affected the value of the business. And from there, the course. And so if I were talking to a group of people and they say, what do you do? And I'd say, I help small businesses prepare for sale. I think that's it in a nutshell.
So, talk to me a little bit about what your dream was when you were that age, say 10 or 11. What did you want to be when you grew up?
My parents were in the hotel business. And I thought, well, maybe I can take this over. And my brother, I had one brother and two sisters. My sisters got married, moved away, and my brother became a lawyer. And interesting story, I went back to school after I get out of the military, and I got married before I started school. And I was majoring in electrical engineering. And I think it was my junior year. I was thinking about, I was wondering if engineering was really for me. It's a good background. I would do it again because you would learn a lot in it, but to have it as a career, I'm not sure I really wanted to pursue that. So I started thinking about, taking over my parents' business. My dad had died, so it was just my mother running it. And one morning, my wife and I had a clock radio, and the clock radio, went off at a certain time, and I was kind of laying there in La La Land, and I thought I heard something, and I was telling my wife, which we both woke up. I said, I thought I heard. I don't know if I dreamed this or I heard it on the radio that the hotel burned down. And so anyway, I had an exam that morning. So I was focused on that. When I came back in the afternoon, I made a few phone calls. Indeed, the hotel had burned down. Nobody was hurt, but there goes that opportunity. So when I graduated, I went to work as an engineer, and I lasted about a year, and I get into sales, and was in sales for about 3 years, and I was going to night school to get my MBA. When I got my MBA, I got into management consulting, but I always wanted to get into my own business. And I researched it, what I wanted to do. And I looked at healthcare and software. So that's what I started my business on, healthcare and software. And I've kind of over the years re-engineered myself several times. I went from an engineer to a salesperson to a management consultant to a software programmer to a business owner. And but what did I want to do when I was 11? I wanted to be in my own business. But at the time, there was a hardware store that had a great, during Christmas time, they had this, you touch the window, and a train would go around, around, around. I thought, wow, that's great. I want to own this hardware store. So, so at 11, I think I wanted to own a hardware store.
So, what were these foundational seeds of business in and even being a best-selling author? What were those early seeds that were planted into you that have harvested and become who you are today?
Well, what we're doing right now is I was taking a course a couple of years ago to improve my course, and I met another fellow who was taking the same course, and he had a course for retirees. So we got talking, and we started to get together. And then I had, another friend of mine who I had been meeting with on a regular basis. We had breakfast, a couple of times a week, and we talked business. And he was an advisor for the Small Business Administration, and he became a friend of mine. And I would throw ideas off him, and so we became very close. So what my fellow that I met, they call my colleague that I met on the course, he and I were talking about, how can we combine what he does with what I do? Because he did something for retirees. I did something for small business owners that wanted to sell their company. So the problem is, that especially with this baby boomer situation, they call that, it's well known in business brokerage and exit planning, they call it the silver tsunami. All these business broker, baby boomer business owners wanting to sell their companies. And there's just so many people that are wanting to sell now. There aren't enough buyers. So we came up with, well, if there aren't enough buyers on the outside, what about on the inside? What about the employees? All right. So we started analyzing that and looking at the problems there. Well, the problem is really that they don't have enough money to buy the company, and they don't know how to run a company. They know all about the company itself, but they don't know how to manage the company from an owner's perspective. So we put together a program for that, and we actually got somebody that was interested, and their employee backed out. So we kind of, at the time, we were taking a course in artificial intelligence to become certified for AI. So we said, well, what are we going to do now? We've got this person who's very interested. We had developed a relationship with them. They trusted us. What are we going to do? So we pivoted, and we decided we were going to install AI in their company instead of selling it to the employee at that time. We'd install AI, improve their company, and in a couple of years they would be in a better position to sell it. So we did that. Everything is working out very well with them. But in after that, really, the three of us got together. Myself, my two colleagues got together, and we said, it's so difficult to get funding to have the employee buy the company at this point in time. Why don't we buy these companies? Why don't we buy these companies, employ AI, transform the company so we improve its effectiveness and efficiency, train the employees to manage the company. In fact, make one of the employees the president and train them on an ongoing basis. And when we've reached a sufficient growth, and the employees really have now the skills to carry on, we'd sell the company to the employees. So that's the plan we have right now. It's called the Exit Plus program, and we're pretty excited about the whole thing. We're just starting it, and we've got a lot of prospects that we're pursuing, and it looks very good.
Wonderful. So I'm curious, who's been that hero in business for you or otherwise that's been kind of an inspiration in your career?
Well, that's a good question. I think my mother. I think my mother was probably the biggest inspiration for me. Even though, when I was in high school, I was really not a good student. I didn't pay much attention to it because I was involved in sports, and that's what I loved. I loved sports, and I spent all my time on sports, and to the point where she actually had to send me away to school, to a private school, so I could get into college. Um, and so we had a bit of a problem, but she actually, when my dad died, they had three hotels, and she sold two of them because she couldn't handle all three. But she did some very innovative things. She started a restaurant within the hotel. Now this was during wartime, Second World War. She started a restaurant, and she came up with these sizzling steaks. She had them coming out of the kitchen on some kind of a metal, so that the steaks actually sizzled. and the people talk about the sizzle and all that, and people were coming from miles around to have a steak there because of the sizzling steaks. So she was very innovative, very creative, and she had a lot of good ideas. And she really took that hotel and made something out of it. And but we had our problems because she didn't think I would ever amount to anything. My brother was a lawyer, and he was her favorite, and she hated sports. And my dad loved sports, but he wasn't around anymore. But yeah, I think my mother, thinking back on it, and what a smart woman she was, and how innovative she was, and creative, and goal oriented, and I think she really set the stage retrospectively for me going forward.
So you've had quite a career of achievement and evolution. What has been that motivator for you every day to wake up and to do the best that you can, not only for the businesses that you run, but as a human being to evolve? What is that collective gas been in your tank?
Well, I think the collective thing right now is helping other people. I volunteer for Meals on Wheels, and deliver there. And there's several people. They're veterans that love to talk. They're all alone. I spend time with them. I spend more time than I should on the Meals on Wheels, but that I enjoy that. Um, I'm a mentor for something called E for All, which stands for Entrepreneurs for All, people getting started. I'm a monitor, a mentor for them. Um, yeah, I'm at a point now, Joe, where I want to help people. I've been a very fortunate in my career. I've learned a lot from my career, and I really want to give back. And I get a great satisfaction out of helping people. And I've helped a lot of people without getting paid for it. People, small business people that would come to me about an issue, and I would work with them and help them, and never got paid for it. And so I think it's helping other people. The satisfaction you get, that I get from that, and I think a lot of other people do too, really is worth it.
So, of everything that you've accomplished up to this point in your life, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
I'm sorry. What is what?
What are you ultimately the proudest of that you've accomplished in your life?
I think I think that my company that I started, I didn't. I knew a little bit about managing people because I managed people in the military. Um, but I think we had set up a situation that we were providing a career for people. Software. There's a lot of opportunity there for software, and a lot of when I sold the company, I made sure that the company that was acquiring us was going to treat our employees well and give them an opportunity. And they did, and they all did very well. And but I think setting that system up, if I had to do it over again, I would do some things a little differently. But I think we did a great job setting it up. We had a great core of people, and I think the satisfaction. One thing I think in my life that I look back on that I'm happy that I really am happy that with it was setting that company up, founding that company. I founded the company from my dining room table, and we set it up, and we had offices all over the Northeast. And we were an 8-figure company, and we did very well. I think that whole thing was probably the number one element of that I'm really look back on and feel good about.
So, Tom, everyone out there in your life has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that you're helping, but ultimately you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, I think that I've done a pretty good job as a leader. I've always given other people the credit. If we work together on something, my employees, I always gave them credit for doing it, and certainly for being a major help. And when people came into me to talk about a problem they had, I would tell them at the outset, if you come to me with a problem, have a solution. So they did, and most of the time it was, "Jay, you're doing great," or I would help them fine tune it a little bit. But I think that I was pretty good in a leadership position. I'm very good at starting things. I'm not good at making them look professional. If I develop something, I need somebody on the other end to make it really look pretty and professional. But I'm very good at starting things, and starting companies. I've started 6 companies in my life, and this is another one. And I kind of am the person that started this function that we're doing now, this program that we're doing now. So I think that's when I look back at myself and rate myself. I think that's where I would rate myself. I'm pretty good at starting things. I'm pretty good at leading it, and so that's about it.
Right on. So if anyone out there wants to reach out, learn more about what you're doing, get your books, delve into your world further, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, they can email me at tom@exitplus.com. That's XITPLUS, no E, tom@exitplus.com. Send me an email, and we can talk about your situation and see where we go from there.
Wonderful. Tom, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for opening up your world. I look forward to people reaching out and driving some traffic your way. So keep doing the great work. It's so great to see folks out there that have been so accomplished in their lives giving back. It's a great story. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks very much for the great conversation, Joe. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.